I walked into Ray's workshop on a Wednesday afternoon and found it empty. Every hand plane, every chisel, every piece of equipment he had spent 40 years collecting, gone. The sawdust smell still clung to the air like a ghost, but everything he had built his life around had been taken. Let me take you back to how it all started. My husband Raymond built furniture. Not the flat-packed kind you assemble with an Allen wrench. Real furniture, dining tables thick enough to outlast 3 generations, rocking chairs with curved backs that fit a human spine like they were shaped for it, bookshelves that didn't wobble after a year. He did this for 40 years in a converted garage at the back of our property, and he loved every minute of it. We were married 46 years before the cancer took him. He passed 2 Novembers ago, just before Thanksgiving. I am 72 years old, and that workshop was the last place I could still smell him clearly. People brought food for weeks after the funeral. They were kind. But what I kept coming back to was that workshop, the sawhorses Ray had built himself, the pegboard covered in shadow outlines where each tool hung, the worn stool by the lathe where he sat when he was thinking. I was not ready to let anyone touch any of it. So I went in every day for about a month, just to sit. Then I started straightening things, hanging tools back in their proper shadows. It became a way of keeping myself moving forward. Early in our marriage, when Ray was traveling frequently for work, I managed all the household paperwork. The property, the insurance, the bills, my name, were jointly held with me as primary. When Ray built out the workshop, I was the one who set up the insurance policy, logged the equipment receipts, paid the tax assessments. He bought tools, I filed the paperwork. That was simply how we worked. It was a habit we never changed, and I never thought to mention it to anyone. Our son Marcus is a good man. He lives 40 minutes away, works in commercial real estate, and has a wife named Linda who I genuinely like. But Marcus has always moved fast. He makes decisions the way some people change lanes, smooth, confident, and without always checking the mirror first. 6 months after Ray died, Marcus started talking about the workshop. The first time was casual. We were standing in the kitchen after Sunday dinner. He said, "Mom, you're not really using that space anymore. We should probably figure out what to do with it." I told him I was using it. I left it at that. He did his patient nod, the one that means he's already decided, and said, "Okay, Mom." He brought it up again the following month, suggesting we donate some equipment to the high school woodshop program. I said I'd think about it. I did not think about it. He didn't believe I was using that space. I could see it every time. What no one in the family knew was what I had been doing in that workshop every Saturday morning for nearly 2 years. 4 months later, on a Tuesday afternoon when I was at my book club, a truck pulled up to the back of my property. My neighbor Paulette called at 2 o'clock. "Carol, there's a flatbed in your back lot and man loading things out of that garage." I drove home in 12 minutes. I came around the side of the house and stopped in the gravel. My nephew Danny, Marcus's first cousin's son, 26 years old, always working some kind of angle, was standing there with his phone out. 2 men I didn't recognize were carrying Ray's band saw toward the truck. Danny waved like he was doing me a favor. "Hey, Aunt Carol. Marcus worked this out. I found a buyer, these tools are just sitting here, and I've got some debts that this covers." I said, "Put it down." He put it down. I asked them all to leave. They left. That evening Marcus called to explain. He had told Danny the tools were family property and that Danny was welcome to sell them to cover his debts. He thought he was being generous. He had not asked me. He had not told me. He had simply assumed. What I found in my filing cabinet the next morning changed everything. I hadn't slept much. At 7 I made coffee and opened the gray cabinet Ray always called my command center. I pulled out the folder marked Workshop. Insurance policy, my name. Tax assessments, my name. The receipt for the bandsaw from 1991, my name. 47 receipts, spanning 37 years. Every piece of equipment in that workshop had been purchased through our joint account and filed in my records. Those tools were mine. Legally, clearly, entirely mine. Marcus had given Danny permission to sell property that did not belong to him. I sat at that table for a long time. And then I remembered the other letter. It had come 8 months earlier, mixed in with donation envelopes I'd meant to sort. The Henderson Valley Craft Museum had seen one of Ray's walnut dining tables at a local charity auction. They wanted to feature 3 of his pieces in their fall regional exhibition. They asked about documentation of his techniques. They offered to send an appraiser. I had meant to call. Life got in the way. I put on my coat and went out to the workshop. Caleb was already there. He is 23 years old, and he came to Ray 2.5 years ago through a community college program that had no room for traditional joinery. Someone pointed him toward Ray. Ray took him on, no charge, Saturday mornings. After Ray died, I kept going to that workshop because I didn't know what else to do with my Saturdays. And Caleb kept coming, because he didn't know where else to keep learning. We never told the family. There was nothing to announce. He came, I made coffee, we worked. I had been filming our sessions on my phone since the beginning, nothing elaborate, just a habit. 2 years of footage. I told Caleb what had happened. He was quiet for a moment. Then, they can't actually do that, can they? No, I said. They cannot. Here's what I did over the following 2 weeks. I called Dr. Reyes at the Henderson Valley Craft Museum and apologized for the delay. We spoke for nearly an hour. She was warm, thorough, and very interested in the footage. She said recorded technique was exactly what their documentation program looked for. We confirmed 3 of Ray's pieces for the exhibition and agreed that Caleb would give a live demonstration on opening night. I found an estate attorney through my friend Margaret. I brought my full folder. She confirmed everything, the tools were legally mine, and their removal without my consent was conversion of property. We sent a letter to Danny, copied to Marcus. Firm, factual, no raised voice in it anywhere. I sent it on Wednesday. Then I went home and said absolutely nothing and let them sit with it for 3 days. Marcus called a Sunday dinner. He probably hoped to be reasonable together, to smooth things over the way families do. I brought Caleb. I brought my folder. Marcus and Linda were there. Danny sat near the end of the table, looking like a man waiting to be pardoned. Ray's sister June was there too, which I hadn't expected, but I was glad for her presence. Marcus started carefully. Mom, I want to begin by saying I'm sorry for how this was handled. Marcus, I said gently, let me show you something first. I opened the folder. I walked the table through the documents, 1 page at a time. The insurance. The assessments. The 47 receipts going back to 1987. Everything in that workshop has been in my name since 1989, I said. The tools were not family property. They were mine. When you gave Danny permission to sell them, you gave away something that was not yours to give. The table was very quiet. Danny said, I honestly didn't know. I believe you, I said. That's why the letter requested return of the property, and nothing more. For now. I put my hand on Caleb's arm. This is Caleb. He has been working in Ray's shop every Saturday morning for 2 years. Ray started his training. I continued it. Last month he completed a Windsor chair using the same pattern Ray drew in 1994. June made a small sound. The Henderson Valley Craft Museum is opening an exhibition this fall. 3 of Ray's pieces will be featured. Caleb is giving a live demonstration on opening night. The curator asked specifically for my workshop footage as documentation of Ray's methods. I closed the folder. Those tools were not gathering dust, I said. They were doing exactly what Ray built them to do. I would like all of them returned by Friday. Danny made 4 trips in a borrowed pickup. Everything came back. Marcus called Thursday evening. He was quieter than usual. He said he had treated my space and my property as resources he had the right to manage. He said that was wrong, and he was sorry, not as a preamble to anything. Just sorry. I told him I accepted that. I meant it. He is still my son. The tools went back into their places over the course of that week. I oiled the ones that had been handled roughly. Caleb came that Saturday and we worked on a small side table with dovetail joints, and it felt like something returning to itself. Linda called the following week. She said Marcus had handled it without telling her, and that she was sorry for what I'd been put through. I appreciated that. We made dinner plans for the following month. The exhibition opened on a cool Friday in October. Marcus and Linda came. June brought yellow roses. Caleb stood at a portable workbench in the museum gallery and showed a room full of strangers how to cut a mortise joint the way Ray had taught him. His hands were steady. He knew exactly what he was doing. Dr. Reyes introduced me as a steward of regional craft heritage. That made me laugh, and then made me cry, and then made me laugh again. I sat in the front row with Ray's folder on my lap. I am 72 years old. I have learned that the quietest rooms are often the most productive ones. Ray built things slowly and carefully, and he built them to last. And while someone was deciding his workshop was wasted space, his methods were being recorded, his techniques were being passed on, and his furniture was going into a museum. Keep your receipts. Keep your Saturdays. Keep teaching whoever shows up at your door willing to learn something real. They will be very surprised by what you've been building while they weren't looking. Tell me in the comments, has anyone ever underestimated what you were quietly working on?